So today we're going to be taking a look at a scenario where Mexico forms an empire. Now Mexico is located in a pretty interesting area. You know, you have the United States to the north. Obviously you don't want to mess with that, but down to the south we have some weaker Central American countries. So I think that Mexico would probably be able to form a pretty big empire here. As always, if you guys enjoy these videos, make sure to leave a like on them and subscribe to the channel if you're new. That helps the channel grow and it helps me produce higher quality videos. So anyway, let's go ahead and jump right into the scenario. Alright, so as in all my other empire videos, we always have the main country colored in red, and anything that country attacks, for example Guatemala, would be blue. Now Mexico isn't particularly a stable country, it's kind of corrupt, but we're going to be pushing all that aside and saying that all the problems are fixed and they become a stable country. With this in mind, we have them electing a monarch who has visions of uniting a lot of Central and South America. With that in mind, we have Mexico ramping up troop numbers and training, and also buying a lot more equipment from the United States. With that, they then move troops down south on the border of Guatemala. Eventually, after lots of preparing, we have Mexico declaring war on Guatemala. Mexican troops push in from the north and eventually meet up at the mountains of Guatemala. Now geographically, Guatemala has a lot of mountains in its central regions, and then the coast is relatively flat. So Mexican troops move into those flatter areas and down the coast of Guatemala. We then have a campaign up north which captures their capital. With this, we have a little bit more fighting, but eventually Guatemala surrenders. In a peace treaty, we have full annexation by Mexico. Alright, and just like that, Mexico has annexed its first country, Guatemala. In comparison, comparing the two, Guatemala isn't as strong as Mexico. That's probably common knowledge. But now we have Mexico going after Belize. Now Belize is still a part of the British Crown, I believe. Well, I just googled it and it said it was. So Belize is part of the British Crown still. We're going to ignore that because Mexico versus the UK wouldn't be too pretty for Mexico. Then of course, if the UK gets involved in the war, I'm sure the United States would play their hand as well. So putting that aside, we have Mexican troops pushing into Belize and eventually capitulating the country. And once again, we have full annexation by Mexico. So at this time, we have a lot of Mexico's neighbors starting to get a little bit angry after expansion, such as the United States, stating that Mexico's expansion into Central America is a big threat to it and its allies. Keeping this in mind, we have Mexico and the United States signing a non-aggression pact, which will basically rule out any possibility of war between the two countries. With this in mind, we have Mexico continuing their invasion down south. Next up is El Salvador. Just like Guatemala and Belize, Mexican troops push in and eventually capitulate the country. And once again, we have full annexation. Now, Honduras is also another geographically tricky country because mountains. So with this, Mexico pushes up around the northern coast of Honduras and down into the southern bits. We also have Nicaragua joining this war on their own side, and their troops push up to secure a northern coast against Honduras. Now do keep in mind, Nicaragua and Mexico are not on the same side, they're just invading the same country at the same time. So eventually we're met with borders that look like this, basically splitting Honduras in half. Alright, so taking a look at these new borders here, we have Mexico once again annexing half of Honduras and the other half going to Nicaragua. But with this, we actually have a bit of a problem for Mexico because, Nicaragua just helped them invade Honduras, so relations with the country have grown. So with that, and improving relations, we have Mexico kind of being stomped in their tracks. Invading up north would not be a good idea because it's America, but what if it was a good idea? So this empire takes place in the future, and in the future we have the United States becoming a little unstable due to some political problems. Far right and far left groups in America do not like each other very much and decide to start to form their own factions, and eventually we have certain states and areas breaking away. Looking at the American Civil War, we have a pretty familiar map here with a lot of the Democratic states breaking away from the main country, and then we have the Republican states, which most likely hold office, just remaining a part of the United States. In this scenario, we would have a very interesting world reaction because number one, the superpower of the world just broke out in the Civil War, and number two, with NATO existing and all, they would most likely join against the breakaway areas. But we have the allies of the United States doing something a little bit different. Instead of siding with the main government of the United States, we have a lot of their European allies who are typically more on the left-leaning side, siding with the Democratic States of America, and without a full-on bloody civil war starts. We have countries such as Russia supplying the main US government, and each side tends to pick their own side that would better benefit their own country. New Mexico sees us and basically says, you know what, this is a perfect opportunity to expand. So they start doing just that and push up into southern Texas. We have the purple and red team making an agreement not to invade each other, and with that we have a pretty unpromising future for America. America makes gains in Colorado and New Mexico, but loses ground in Wisconsin and Michigan. Down south, Mexico crosses the border completely and pushes up the coastal area of Texas. The US takes back all of Colorado and New Mexico and starts a campaign into southern Virginia, but they fully lose their northern states, and an invasion into West Virginia started. We have a push out from California over here in the west, as well as Mexican troops pushing into Arizona. We eventually have other troops arriving in the Democratic States of America, and it looks like the United States may not be off too well. This is one because they lost all of their economically powerful states other than like Florida and Texas, and without those economically powerful states, they're probably not going to go off too well. Also, I didn't mention this, but Alaska has declared independence, and Hawaii joined the purple side. Anyway, back to the war in America. We have Mexican troops continuing to push up into southern Texas, as well as over into Louisiana. The United States make even more progress in Virginia, as well as pushing over into Ohio. Over on the west coast, we have the purple states pushing out into their main territory, while we have Canada joining this war on the side of the purple team, and they start their invasion of the northern states of America. So yeah, at this point, it really isn't looking too great for, America. This is not good. This is not ideal for the Americans. They're fighting a war on pretty much all fronts, and they're surrounded on all sides, so it's really not looking good. Mexico continues their advance up north, while the purple states manage to push back the blue states in the south. We eventually have Mexico pushing up the Mississippi River, as well as the purple states pushing down. With this, we eventually have a meetup which splits the US in half and leads to a pretty clean sweep of the areas. These central states are really flat, and it really wouldn't be hard to take them over. There's also like nobody living there. The only challenge they would have is over here in the Rockies. Once again, those were already under the control of Colorado and Mexico, so those areas easily rise up against the blue team. And eventually, we have all of the central US falling. Now it lies all over here in the south, which is already a pretty poor region, so we have the purple and red team pushing in. After all is said and done, we have a division of the United States that looks something like this. So let's go ahead and take a look at this peace treaty. Alright, so taking a look at this weird looking treaty here, we have Mexico getting lands in Arizona, Texas, New Mexico, Louisiana, and possibly Oklahoma and Arkansas. But with this, we have Mexico getting a lot of economically good areas, such as in Texas, and we also have the United States coming back under the rule of the blue areas. So now that Mexico has defeated its northern neighbor, we have them looking south into Nicaragua. They might have been improving relations, but that doesn't matter to the Mexican government as they declare war on the country. Mexican troops then start to push down the coast of Nicaragua, as well as the northern coast. We have a slow push into the mountains, but eventually they do manage to take them all over, and eventually we have the capitulation of the country. Alright, so peace treaty. Mexico annexes all of the country. Now usually what I like to do in my empire videos is kind of, let them make puppet governments, but I don't really think Mexico has a need for doing that because all these areas were once under the rule of Spain. They also all speak the same language, so I don't really think there would be that much of a division between them all. I know there are some divisions, but for example, with the Ottoman Empire, I separated the Turks and the Arabs for obvious reasons. Historically, they don't mix well together. And yeah, so anyway, back over in Mexico, we have them kind of finishing up their empire here because, invading Costa Rica and Panama would not be good for them. That's simply because those two countries are protected by the United States. Neither of them have Panama has a military, but Costa Rica doesn't. And if they were to invade there, I'm sure the US would get involved, but maybe they wouldn't since they just got out of a civil war. It would be interesting to see. But yeah, I'm actually going to cut it off there. Anyway, let's go ahead and take a look at the states of Mexico. I said states, but I probably should have said regions. So obviously we have the main Mexican state here. This includes lands that were annexed from the United States, as well as Guatemala and Belize. We then have the northern Central American state and the southern Central American state. These could also be shortened to Nicaragua and Honduras, although I'm not really sure how El Salvador would feel about that. Up north, we have Arizona, we have Texas, and then we have Louisiana. So yeah, this country doesn't have that many regions. It has a total of 6, not as much as some of my other empires. But Mexico was kind of limited here. They had to go up against the United States, which they really didn't because they just took advantage of a civil war. And then they really can't invade down south anymore because, like I said, these countries are protected by the US. They could go against Cuba, but they might get backed by Russia, and I'm sure Mexico doesn't want a war against Russia. Although I doubt Russia would be able to do anything. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel if you're new. I do want to talk about one thing real quick, and that is the 40,000 subscriber special. So that should be coming out this weekend, as in, let me check my calendar real quick. So it should be coming out this weekend, as in the 23rd or 24th, most likely the 24th. That'll be doing a Hoi 4 live stream, so if you want to stop by, hang out, and kind of teach me how to play the game, then by all means go ahead. In that stream, toward the end, I might also do some other stuff, such as some mapping stuff, or maybe a different game. I don't really intend on doing Hoi 4 for the entire 3 or 4 hours I'm going to stream for. Anyway, if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel if you're new. That helps the channel grow. Also, make sure to ring the bell so you don't miss a live stream this weekend. It's probably going to be a good one. And yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.